positive way. But you know, the bowls can be a great thing, or they also can be not so good. And if you go out there and you lay an egg on bowl game, it isn't good for the program. And so we're going to do everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen. I'm not into the, you know, we go and it's a celebration deal. I mean, we have a game, and we're going to go try to win the football game just like they're going to try to do. So that's how we're going to approach it.
Luke said he negotiated with you to get out of practice early Saturday. Will you go light on him?
Who did?
Luke. He's got a wedding to go to.
You really, you're always the one that gets me going on these tangents, you know that, because I'm ready. Luke's getting married Saturday, all right, which my first question was, who planned that day? And why not in the middle of January? That was my first question. We just couldn't wait another month. So then Luke, he looks, he goes, well, here's what you can do, Coach. You can move all the practices here, and he starts laying out the Luke Stocker bowl prep plan. And I told him when he got his head job, he can prepare for a bowl how he wants to do it. And until then, the University of Tennessee is going to prepare it how I want it done. And if he needs to go get married, he can go get married. So that's what's happening. He's going to miss that practice.
Have bruises or anything on his wedding pictures?
I didn't think about that.
I'll take that as a no.
You know, what do you want me to do? I mean, it's like I'm now burdened with Luke's wedding.
Well, you
I'm not making any adjustments for a wedding, for our bowl prep, to answer your question. And it's not that I don't love Luke. I love to go to the wedding and all that, but you know, we got an obligation to do what's the right thing for Tennessee, and allow Luke to do what's good for him, because I do think it's important he shows up at the wedding. So we're going to allow that to happen.
So when you asked him why not a month later, what was his response?
He didn't really give one. He didn't have to give one. Y'all are just waiting on me here.
That's an easy one.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I know it. I'm not.
North Carolina
I'll
question
have to
okay?
answer to my wife.
That's what I was going to say. You are married.
Which is the most important thing.
Derek, back in August or whenever the spit hit the fan with North Carolina there and everything, were you just too busy with your own thing to pay much attention to that, or how aware are you of what adversity they face?
Well, just as aware as any fan, really. I mean, the only thing I'm aware of is what you read on the mainstream media, you know. And so I can't speak on any of it. I know it was a challenging time, and I have a lot of respect for Butch Davis. And so I know what happened was not a reflection of who he was. And you know, that's the one fear you always have as a head football coach, that things are happening in your program that go in a direction, and when you become aware of it, it's a real disaster. So you know, I had a lot of sympathy for what he's going through. That's a tough thing.
Can you see that they came through it as a pretty good football team?
I would say so. I mean, you know, I thought one of the most remarkable performances they had was that first game, you know, where they were missing I don't know how many guys playing, and y'all know how good LSU is. And the way they competed, and the way they competed all year, it's just a real tribute to excellent coaching.
Coach, with all the changes that happened at Florida recently, how worried are you that maybe some of your staff members might be contacted? And do you see any changes in your staff coming before or after the bowl game?
Yeah, I don't anticipate any changes. I think the nature of this business is there's always going to be some interest, and I hope there is interest in our coaches, because that means we're doing a pretty good job. But if we lose coaches to other programs, the last thing I'm going to do is worry about it, because there's a whole bunch of coaches that'd kill to be in their shoes. I don't expect our coaches to go anywhere, and I think they're all pretty happy here. So
So,
Yeah.
along those lines, what were your thoughts, Coach, about Irvin stepping down and Will Muschamp getting that job?
Yeah, well, I was proud of Will. You know, Will's a good friend of mine. He's a very close friend. We worked together for 5 years on the same staff. And I probably talked to Will more this year than any other coach in the profession during the season. So it's a heck of an opportunity for him, and he's going to do a great job, you know.
In the way that you've designed these 4 phases of the bowl practice, and throughout the season, you've kind of put a lot of emphasis on kind of giving days off and letting the guys heal. Is that something that developed from your days as a player, something that you learned from someone else? Because there's a lot of coaches that will just go right back into beating them up.
Well, I do reflect on my time as a player. And I've also learned some things in coaching where we can push them the other way. You know, it's a real balance between working them and having them to where they feel fresh on game day. Because you can be too fresh on game day and you're not ready physically, or you can just be beat down mentally or physically on game day. And you're always really walking that fine line. It's a hard thing to ever know until they play. I mean, I'll just give you an example. We don't stretch. I don't know if y'all have ever noticed that. Y'all noticed that?
You told us about it before.
Yeah. And it's because as a player, I hated it. And as a coach, I hated it. Because you just stand there for 10 minutes and everybody's laying on the ground with their leg up, pretending like they're stretching. And they're really just thinking about how miserable the next 2 hours is going to be. Laying on the ground. Like we need a 320-pounder laying on the ground with his leg up, working his hamstring. He runs a yard every snap. So we don't stretch. We move around and start hitting, and you get loose. In the old days, they did arm circles. When you came out, they did this, arm circles, and then bowl in the ring. And you just hit, you know, and then when stuff started coming out of your mouth, that meant you were ready, and then you can go practice. Now we got to go through an hour and a half, you know, stretch every muscle. But we don't do that anymore. It's worked pretty good. We haven't had any hamstrings this year, have we? I think all the science says you're supposed to move around anyway.
Daniel Lincoln, quad.
Yeah, and what does he stretches all the time? The kickers that's my point. The kickers are the only ones that stretch, and they're the guys that get hurt. We need to do a little bull in the ring with them, and they'll be ready. We might kick one to the end zone. Hadn't done that in a while. What else? Anything?
Looking back, what would you consider to be maybe the turning point for the season?
Well, results-wise, we all know what it was, the Memphis game. But, you know, I really started seeing signs, and I've said this, the Alabama game. There were a lot of good things in that game that we did differently from the prior 6 games. So I thought when we came out of that open week, we forged a new direction for us on both sides of the ball that started showing signs in Alabama. And then we saw even greater signs in South Carolina in a lot of areas, and then it came together in Memphis. So I started seeing an upward trend. You know, after that Georgia game, that was without question the worst game we played all year. I mean, there's, you know, and so we started playing a little better after that, I think.
Derek, in hindsight, how important was it getting Tyler in at Georgia and getting him, I guess, some confidence there, and then still sticking with the plan and working him early against Alabama?
Well, it was big, and that's why we did it, because I thought it was important for him and for us. It was for him to get his feet wet without pressure, all right, without them really amping it up, you know, and develop a little confidence, and it was for us to evaluate how he managed out there. And then when he did that, it gave me more confidence to make a move at South Carolina. And then when he did that, it gave me more confidence to go ahead and make the decision to switch. So, you know, those decisions are very difficult. All personnel decisions are, but especially the quarterback. And I've been a part of a lot of, go the wrong way. You pull a guy too early, then you go back. Fortunately for us, it worked out, and I'm just glad it did.